On the Mayfly bench, the Samick Super Strat. So this guitar was purchased by a friend of mine's husband so that she could learn how to play guitar. This was done about a decade ago, I guess. And the complaint about the instrument is she hadn't played it much, but the electronics had stopped working. And she wanted me to figure out what was wrong, repair it, and also give it a really good setup and all of those things. Let's walk through it. So this guitar is a budget student instrument, but it's a pretty nice instrument actually. The neck is absolutely straight. The pickups, when I managed to get them working, sound pretty good. The body's pretty good. It's nice and light, has good weight, and the hardware's okay. Where it was let down was in the electronics. Here's the guts of it. All of these components are the lowest quality components of the entire guitar. Really cheap output jack, inexpensive potentiometers, and a really cheap switch. So what's happened over the years is that the wipers and the potentiometers have actually let go from the carbon track on them. And that causes the potentiometer to be very intermittent to the point that it basically doesn't make contact until you try and wiggle them and force them to. Same has happened with the switch. The tone pot's totally dead. So we're going to be replacing all of those. But before we do that, I'll show you what I did to get the guitar set up well. The first is I used my set of nut files to get the nut shape appropriately. It was set really too high. The other issue is that the bridge was set to be floating. I personally think that floating bridges don't belong on a guitar that someone's going to be using to learn how to play. So I torqued down on the springs in the back and set that bridge to be flat. This brought the action down to something a little bit more reasonable, but it was still very high. So I adjusted the action, put a brand new set of D'Addario strings on it, set the intonation, and the guitar plays well. These are the potentiometers that were in the guitar when I received it. I'm going to be replacing them with these high-quality CTS parts. If it's going to be used to make music, it's worthwhile fixing properly. Now, you may have noticed that these little mini pots are a lot smaller in diameter than the big CTS ones that I'm going to install in their place. For this particular hole, there was no problems, but for this particular hole, I had to make an adjustment in the body shape. So that was reamed out with a circular reamer mounted in an electric drill. Here's the new parts. The plan is I'm going to be assembling these all outside of the guitar. And to do that, what I've done is I've created this template. I did this by laying this on the front of the guitar and tracing through the back. And this shows me where the various holes are for the switch and the two potentiometers, so I can install them and solder them up with them being outside the guitar. So here we have the parts mounted to our template. We're going to solder it up using the original wiring as our guide. A friend of mine told me about these things. These are little eyelets that screw to the bushing of your potentiometer, and they ground to it, and you can solder to the end of them. It's a little better solution than soldering to the back of a potentiometer. The new controls are wired. The new switch requires a number 6 screw to mount it. Unfortunately, those holes in the top of the guitar are too small to fit the screw. We're going to have to drill them out very carefully. Okay, the new electronics are installed. Time to go and try it out, make sure it works.